Hello everyone, I'm Louis, Senior Market Strategist of Fullerton Markets. I'm currently in Greece and I want to take the opportunity to talk about the Greece debt crisis that happened in 2015 and how the current Evergrande Group saga is very similar to the Greece debt crisis as compared to the Lehman Brothers that happened in 2008. Let me just get right into it. Let's look at the Greece debt crisis in 2015 and how did it happen. Here's a very quick guide on why this happened. So first, in 2008, the worst financial crisis in almost 80 years caused a global recession. So many countries or many European countries had huge government debts, but Greece was worse affected with a spiraling spending deficit. It had borrowed much more money than it was able to make in revenue through taxes. And then, of course, in 2009, the Greek government was exposed to have cooked books on its budget deficit. So its budget deficit was in fact 3 times higher than what was reported in 2010. So the budget deficit of 6.4% was what was reported, but in actual fact, the actual budget deficit came in to be about 15.4%. So what happened? The Greek government lost its credibility and they were frozen out of the bond markets. And then, of course, what happened next? In 2010, Greece asked for a financial rescue by the European Union and the International Monetary Fund, so basically the EU and the IMF. So bailouts, which are known as the emergency loans aimed at saving sinking economies, began in 2010. So Greece received 3 successive packages totaling 289 billion euros, but they came with the price of drastic austerity measures, which includes cutting spending and increased taxes. For many Greeks, especially the young, years of economic hardship were severe. People's despair turned into riots on the streets as they suffered spending cuts, high taxes, and repeatedly slashed salaries and pensions. These austerity measures created a vicious cycle of recession, with unemployment reaching 27.5% in 2013, but for those under 25, it was in fact 58% of unemployment rate. And in 2015, a new government was voted in and they ignored the bailout terms and promised to increase spending. Greece lost its only lifeline, creditors start to flee Greece, and a liquidity crisis emerges. And of course, there are concerns of a Grexit. And on the 30th of June 2015, Greece defaulted 1.6 billion euros of debt to the IMF. But of course, eventually the Greek government threw in the white towel and accepted 86 billion of lifeline from EU. And of course, Greece was able to avert the debt crisis after all. I will not blame you if you feel that the Evergrande saga feels like the Lehman Brothers moment that triggered the global financial crisis. Because firstly, we are seeing a property bubble. Second, we are seeing huge leverage. Third, the players seem too big to fail. And last but not least, policymakers are wedged between moral hazard and a catastrophe. So what is happening to Evergrande Group? The Chinese property giant has a crushing debts of 300 billion US dollars and it could default if it's unable to raise money. And the Chinese developer is so huge that the fallout from a potential failure could hurt not only the Chinese economy but spread to markets beyond. Its stocks plummeted almost 80%, while its bonds was repeatedly halted by Chinese stocks exchanges. If Evergrande Group were to default, it could affect parties such as banks, suppliers, home buyers, and investors. It may lead to a situation of what we call cross-default, where a default triggered in one situation may spread to other obligations, leading to a broader contagion. So why is the Evergrande saga so different to the 2008 financial crisis? Because China owns its banks and can liquefy credit anytime it likes. It could also bail out Evergrande and its property sector tomorrow if it wanted to. And it has a lot of monetary space to play with and can, at any time, stimulate more property activity by loosening macro-prudential controls. However, it is choosing not to. Why? I believe that China wants to restructure the property sector. Its property market accesses are the key threat to its economic development path. Property is both the source of its enduring catch-up growth and is doomed, if allowed, to run too far. No other Chinese sector misallocates capital and kills productivity on such a massive scale. If not structured, it will drag China into the middle income trap of weak income. stock growth, and declining efficiency. So why is it more like the Greece debt crisis than the Lehman Brothers default? Both the Greece crisis and Evergrande Group saga are intentional campaign of economic restructuring around the great financial crisis period. So hear me out. In 2010, the European debt crisis was allowed to run unabated by German authorities to reform economies running twin deficits. So the PIIGS, as we knew them, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, the crisis could have ended anytime. All ECB needs to do was to print and restore order to use, but it didn't. Similarly, the Evergrande Group saga can be resolved by the China Central Bank easily. However, they are choosing not to, so as to break up Evergrande and restructure the property market. So is that to say that the default of Evergrande will not cause a financial crisis? No, a fallout is likely to happen in the global economic adjustment that will encompass everything from crushed commodity prices, challenge emerging market export dependency, competition with China on value-added output, a deflation tsunami akin to a global recession, and a reckoning for overvalued developed market assets.